Eat less, move more. If you've ever struggled with your weight, your energy levels, or that stubborn midsection that refuses to budge, you've probably had that phrase thrown at you like a blunt instrument. It is the standard advice, but it carries a heavy, unspoken implication. It implies that if the scale isn't moving, it's a character flaw. It's a lack of willpower. It's your fault. I am standing here today to tell you that for the vast majority of people I see, willpower is not the problem. The problem is a metabolic timing error. Most nutritional advice focuses entirely on what you are doing while you are awake. But your metabolism does not have an off switch. In fact, the most critical window for your long-term health, the window that determines if you will develop type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, or chronic systemic inflammation, happens between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Curious. While you are dreaming, your liver is making a choice. It is either clearing out the day's excess sugar to prepare you for a high-energy morning, or it is frantically converting that sugar into fat and storing it right around your midsection. Today, we are going to talk about how to force your body to choose the first option. We aren't talking about a detox or a miracle cure or some proprietary supplement. We are talking about two simple kitchen ingredients backed by peer-reviewed clinical data that can fundamentally shift your overnight biology. I'm Lina, and this is the science of the midnight metabolism switch. To understand why this works, we have to look at what is actually happening under the hood when the lights go out. Most people think that once they stop eating for the day, the body just enters a state of rest. That couldn't be further from the truth. When you finish your last meal, your blood sugar spikes. Normally, your muscles act like a large sponge, soaking up that glucose for energy. But here's the catch that no one tells you. Your muscles have a storage limit. Once those sponges are full, the excess glucose heads straight to the liver. Now, the liver is an incredible organ, but it has a very specific fallback plan when it's overwhelmed with sugar at night. It triggers a process called de novo lipogenesis. That is a fancy medical term for creating fat from scratch. This isn't just regular body fat. This is visceral fat that wraps around your organs and triggers a cascade of insulin resistance. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation confirmed that in people with even slightly elevated blood sugar, this overnight fat production is a primary driver of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But here is the kicker. Your liver follows a strict circadian clock. During the day, it's primed to absorb sugar and use it. At night, its biological programming tells it to stop absorbing and start producing glucose to keep your brain fueled during the fast. If you go to bed with high insulin levels, you are essentially forcing the liver to do two conflicting things at once. It's like trying to drive a car with one foot slammed on the gas and the other on the brake. The result is what we call the dawn phenomenon. You wake up with high fasting blood sugar, you feel groggy, and you find yourself craving carbohydrates before you've even brushed your teeth. There is a way to interrupt this cycle. It involves a specific drink taken approximately 30 minutes before bed. Now, I know the wellness industry has turned things like apple cider vinegar and cinnamon into a bit of a joke. They have marketed them as magic potions for weight loss, which has caused many skeptical people to dismiss them as pseudoscience. They are not magic, they are biochemical tools. When you understand the mechanism, the skepticism disappears because the physiology makes complete sense. The first ingredient is raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. The active component here is acetic acid. When this enters your system, it is converted into acetate, which shifts the ratio of energy molecules inside your liver cells. This shift activates an enzyme called AMPK. In medical circles, we call AMPK the master metabolic switch. When AMPK is switched on, your cells are essentially forbidden from storing fat. Instead, they are forced to burn it. By taking this before bed, you are telling your liver to stop producing excess glucose and start clearing it. A landmark study in the journal Diabetes Care showed that this simple bedtime habit reduced morning fasting glucose by an average of 4 to 6%. While that may sound like a small number, in clinical terms, that is often the difference between being classified as pre-diabetic and being healthy. The second ingredient is cinnamon, which handles the other half of the equation. While the vinegar works on the liver, the cinnamon works on your peripheral cells. However, there is a massive safety warning you cannot ignore. You must use Ceylon cinnamon, often called true cinnamon, and not the cheap Cassia cinnamon found in most grocery stores. Cassia contains high levels of a compound called coumarin, which can be toxic to the liver if used daily. Ceylon is the only version that makes sense for a nightly health habit. Ceylon cinnamon contains compounds called proanthocyanidins. These compounds are incredible because they actually mimic the action of insulin. They knock on the doors of your cells and tell them to let the sugar in, even if your cells have become deaf or resistant to your own insulin. It is like having a backup key to a locked door. Research published in the Annals of Family Medicine analyzed multiple controlled trials and found that cinnamon supplementation produced meaningful reductions in fasting blood glucose and triglycerides. You are essentially attacking the problem from two angles. The vinegar stops the liver from pumping sugar out, and the cinnamon helps your cells pull the remaining sugar in. If you want to try this, you have to do it correctly. Doing it wrong won't just make it ineffective, it could actually be counterproductive. Here is the protocol. Start with a standard mug of warm water. It should not be boiling because high heat can degrade the beneficial enzymes and the probiotic mother in the vinegar. Into that water, add 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. Do not exceed 2 tablespoons. There is no added benefit to taking more, and you will only increase the risk of irritating your throat or damaging your tooth enamel. In fact, I always recommend drinking this through a straw to keep the acid away from your teeth. Next, add half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon. You can add a squeeze of fresh lemon for flavor and a hit of vitamin C, but you must avoid any kind of sweetener. Adding honey or sugar completely defeats the purpose because you would be spiking the very glucose the drink is trying to clear. Timing is the most important factor. You must take this drink approximately 30 minutes before bed, but more importantly, you must respect the 2-hour gap. You cannot eat a snack, then drink this, and go to bed. If you have a biscuit or a piece of toast an hour before bed, your insulin is already spiked. The drink cannot fight a fresh load of carbohydrates. Your last meal should be at least 2 to 3 hours before you take this drink. This allows the peak effect of the acetic acid to align perfectly with the window where your liver would normally start ramped up sugar production. I want to be incredibly honest with you because I think health content often sets people up for disappointment. You will not wake up tomorrow morning 10 pounds lighter. Biology is a game of compound interest, not a series of overnight miracles. In the first week, you might not notice anything other than perhaps feeling a bit less puffy or bloated in the morning, but by week 3 or 4, something starts to shift. As your AMPK switch stays on every night, your gut microbiome begins to change. Research in the journal Cell Host and Microbe shows that acetate actually feeds beneficial bacteria like Akkermansia, which is consistently linked to a leaner metabolism and better heart health. You aren't just flushing sugar for one night, you are re-landscaping your entire internal environment. I see people in the emergency department every week who are in a state of metabolic crisis. They arrive when the damage has already been done, when years of high overnight sugar and insulin resistance have turned into a heart attack, a stroke, or kidney failure. It breaks my heart because so much of this is preventable if we just understood how our bodies work. It is hard to prevent disease when the only advice you are ever given is to try harder or have more discipline. This drink is a tool, not a crutch. It works best when you are also moving your body and eating real food, but it is a powerful starting point for anyone who feels like their biology is working against them. If you found this mechanistic explanation useful, if you prefer the why over the what, then I'd love for you to join this community. I cover metabolic health, longevity, and disease prevention from a clinical perspective because I believe that when you understand the science, you are empowered to make changes that actually stick. Before you start, a final reminder. If you are currently on medication for blood sugar, especially insulin, please speak with your doctor first. This protocol is effective enough that it could significantly lower your readings, and your medication might need to be adjusted. Your metabolism does not sleep. It is time you gave it the tools to work for you instead of against you. I'm Lina. Take care of your body. It is the only place you have to live. I will see you in the next video.